Oga, stop, we should not be doing this, Ifeoma muttered, breathless, as her back pressed against the mahogany desk in the HR conference room. Her blouse was halfway unbuttoned, the room dim, the blinds drawn tight like secrets. Mr. Banjo's cologne wrapped around her like a second skin, intoxicating and dangerous. Her protest came late, too late. His hands didn't stop. And hers didn't either. Just a month ago, Ifeoma was a rising star in the HR department of Meridian Holdings, efficient, respected, and always properly dressed in her well-ironed blouses and ankle-length skirts. But things had changed since Chuka, her husband, lost his job. With bills piling and expectations looming, the urgency of survival began to outpace the pace of her morals. Banjo had noticed how she stayed back after hours, how her clothes started to fit a little tighter, how her eyes lingered too long on company memos about promotions. The first time it happened, she told herself it was a mistake. A one-time misstep. But it didn't feel like a mistake when the alert hit her phone, a bonus of 350,000 Nigerian nairas from the CEO's discretionary fund. She had told Chuka it was for hitting HR KPIs. He had hugged her and called her a blessing. She felt like a fraud. That night, as she stood by the sink rinsing rice, her mind replayed the office encounter on a loop. Her husband sat in the living room, job hunting on his cracked laptop, unaware that the woman he loved had sold a piece of herself for both of them. Ifeoma wasn't sure what hurt more, the guilt, or how easy it had become to ignore it. In the dark, she whispered to herself, just until things get better. But somewhere deep down, she knew, they were only going to get worse. "You're not even trying to touch me these days," Chuka said, not looking up from his phone. Ifeoma stiffened. His words cut sharper than he knew. She sat on the edge of the bed, dabbing off her makeup, her heart pounding louder than the rain tapping against their window pane. "I'm just tired, babe," she replied, forcing a yawn. "Work has been hell this week. You know these HR restructuring projects." But her voice was too sweet, too polished. Even she didn't believe herself. The promotion letter had come in earlier that day. Official, embossed, and hand-delivered by the CEO's assistant. Head of People and Culture, a title she had once dreamed of earning. The kind of role people gossiped about in canteens. But now, holding the letter in her bag felt like carrying contraband. She should have been proud, but all she felt was heat rising in her chest, part shame, part fear. She crawled beside Chuka and held him from behind, her hand sliding around his stomach. He didn't move. "We'll be okay," she whispered into his shoulder blade. "I hope so," he said dryly. "Because I don't think I can keep pretending I don't notice things." That night, as he drifted off, Ifeoma lay awake staring at the ceiling. Her husband was sleeping. Her soul was sleeping. And yet, in the office the next morning, she walked into the boardroom in heels that clicked like confidence and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mr. Banjo was already seated. Their eyes met. He gave a slight nod, the kind that said, "I own you." And in that moment, she wasn't sure who disgusted her more, him or herself. "Why does coffee smell like onions?" Ifeoma asked, wrinkling her nose at her mug. The HR intern chuckled. "Ma, are you okay?" "That's caramel hazelnut. Our most expensive one." She smiled weakly and waved it off. "Maybe I just didn't sleep well." But inside, her stomach was doing somersaults. For the third day in a row, she'd woken up nauseous, unable to stomach her usual morning tea. She had blamed stress, then blamed the suya she ate the night before. But now, even perfume made her gag. The realization crept up slowly, like a shadow behind her reflection. She'd missed her period. Twice. In the privacy of the executive restroom, she stared at the calendar on her phone. Her finger hovered over the last marked date. 7 weeks. A cold chill slid down her spine. Her palms went sweaty. A baby. Now. With what body? What timing? And worst, whose? She pressed a hand against her belly, her mind racing. She and Chuka had only slept together once in the last 2 months, and even then, he hadn't finished. But Banjo. She remembered too clearly. His breath. His weight. No protection. No talk of consequences. The test would confirm. But her heart already knew. When she looked at her reflection again, she didn't see head of people and culture. She saw a woman standing at the intersection of ruin and regret. She flushed the toilet though she hadn't used it, washed her hands, and reapplied her lipstick with shaking fingers. The mirror didn't lie. Something inside her had changed, and it was only beginning. Just pee on the stick, it's not the end of the world, her friend Amoka said over the phone, trying to sound light-hearted. Ifeoma chuckled nervously, the test kit box trembling in her hand. You say that because it's not your womb we're talking about. The apartment was quiet. Chuka had gone out for a walk, probably to clear his thoughts, maybe to breathe away the weight of unemployment. Ifeoma had used the opportunity to buy 3 different pregnancy kits, stuffing them into her handbag like stolen goods. Now she sat on the toilet lid, phone on speaker, heart pounding. She followed the instructions carefully. Then she waited. 2 minutes. 3. And then, the word narrowed to 2 pink lines, bold, clear, undeniable. Pregnant. She didn't scream. Didn't cry. Just sat there staring. Her thoughts folded over themselves like crashing waves. Her marriage was already strained. Her affair was a grenade with the pin pulled. And now, this, an innocent heartbeat growing inside her, demanding answers she didn't have. When Chuka returned, she had washed her face and smiled like nothing had changed. He sat beside her at dinner, asking about job openings he'd found online. She nodded and supported him, but her hands trembled. Later that night, she held her stomach while he slept. The war inside her chest was louder than anything she'd ever known. She was growing life, but burying her own truth. Tomorrow, she would call a gynecologist. And after that, she would call Banjo. Because sooner or later, someone had to be told. And someone had to pay. So, you're pregnant, and you think it's mine. Banjo said, one eyebrow raised, a smirk playing on his lips like it was a game. Ifeoma blinked, stunned. I don't think it's yours, I know. Banjo leaned back in his leather chair, folding his arms across his chest. That's a bold assumption, coming from a married woman. The air in his office turned icy. The same room that had once been filled with whispers and heat now stank of power and denial. Ifeoma sat upright, fire rising in her belly. I didn't come here to be insulted. I came here to tell you what's happening. I'm pregnant. You didn't use protection. And I need to know what we're going to do. Banjo scoffed. We. He stood, walking to the window and looking out at the city skyline. Let me make one thing clear, Ifeoma, I don't do scandal. I don't do blackmail. Whatever you think you're holding over me, you better drop it now. Her lips trembled, but she didn't back down. This isn't blackmail, Banjo. This is reality. I'm carrying a child that could ruin both of us. So don't play games. There was a knock on the door. His secretary peeked in. Sir, the auditors from Lagos are here for the compliance review. His face tightened. Tell them I'll be with them shortly. As the door shut again, Banjo turned to her, all charm gone. You want a solution? Fine. Handle it. Quietly. Whatever it takes. And don't ever come into my office talking like this again. Ifeoma walked out of his office, her knees weak. The audit had begun. And so had her countdown to chaos. Madam Ifeoma, this came for you, the receptionist said, handing her a sealed brown envelope. Ifeoma frowned. From who? No name. Just said it's urgent. She took the envelope with cautious fingers, her heart beating an uneasy rhythm. Back in her office, she closed the blinds before tearing it open. Inside were 3 photographs. Grainy but clear enough, her and Banjo, tangled together on the black leather couch in his office. One image had his hand beneath her blouse. Another showed her straddling him, blouse half undone. The last was a time-stamped shot of her exiting his office, looking disheveled. She dropped the photos like they burned her. Who had taken them? How? The blinds had been shut. The doors locked. Unless someone had been watching. Maybe a hidden camera. Or worse, someone on the inside. A note was paperclipped to the photos. One sentence, typed neatly. Clean up your mess before we clean you out. Panic clawed up her throat. Was this from Banjo? Was this the auditors? Someone from IT? HR politics had always been petty, but this wasn't office gossip. This was blackmail. This was war. She looked around her office, suddenly paranoid. Her walls felt like they had ears. Her phone, her laptop, everything felt compromised. She placed the photos into her drawer and locked it, but she knew she wouldn't sleep that night. Someone knew. And they weren't just watching. They were waiting for her to sleep. Amoka, I messed up. This is bad, Ifeoma whispered, voice trembling as she held her phone in one hand and a bottle of malt in the other. You're pregnant, you've got a cheating CEO breathing down your neck, and now someone's threatening you. Girl, that's not just bad. That's Nollywood-level wickedness. They were in Amoka's car, parked behind the church near Gogoda. It was the only place Ifeoma felt safe enough to talk freely. Her friend stared at her like she was a walking scandal. So what's the plan? You can't keep pretending. I can't tell Chuka. It will destroy him. He already feels like a failure. But you're hiding a pregnancy and an affair. And now blackmail. Ifeoma looked down. Her palms were damp. Her eyes, heavy. I don't even know what I want. Some days I want to keep the baby. Other days I just want to disappear. Amoka sighed. You need to get ahead of this before it explodes. Handle the audit. Stay calm. And please stop going near Banjo. That man will burn you alive and not even smell the smoke. I just wanted a better life, Ifeoma murmured. For both of us. Her friend squeezed her shoulder. And now you have a secret that could destroy it all? They drove off in silence, each one aware that time was ticking. And secrets, like corpses, never stayed buried forever. Can you account for these staffing contracts signed 3 months ago? The lead auditor asked, pushing forward a thick file. Ifeoma forced a smile. Of course. Those were part of the temporary workforce expansion for the Port Harcourt office. The audit team from Lagos was thorough, 2 men and a woman, all wearing stern expressions and asking pointed questions. They didn't care about titles or relationships. They wanted numbers, signatures, justifications. And unfortunately, Ifeoma had doctored more than a few. Some of those contracts were fakes, created to mask staff exits. Others were favors approved by Banjo, the same ones tied to the bribes she'd helped disguise under training and recruitment allowances. Everything she had done to secure her position was now stacked against her. You'll need to provide original documentation, the woman said. We'll also need to speak to your team directly. Ifeoma nodded, her throat dry. Absolutely. I'll coordinate that right away. When they left, she collapsed into her seat. The pregnancy had drained her strength. The audit was draining her soul. And now, every minute at work felt like waiting for the roof to fall in. Her phone buzzed. A message from Banjo. Fix the audit. Fast. Or I fix it my way. She wanted to scream. Instead, she reached for the file again. Because if she didn't fix it, someone else would bury her with it. Are you hiding something from me? Chuka asked one night, his voice low but sharp. Ifeoma dropped the spoon she was stirring the stew with. What are you talking about? He stood by the doorway, arms folded. You've been different. Distant. You're barely eating. You're throwing up in the mornings. And now you flinch every time I touch you. Her stomach churned. He was connecting dots. The wrong dots, but dangerously close. I'm just stressed, Chuka. The audit is killing everyone at the office. We might even get layoffs. That's not all, he said, stepping closer. You forget, I know you. You're hiding something. She turned away. I'm tired of fighting with you. And I'm tired of pretending we're okay, he snapped. The silence that followed was thick, painful. A chasm between them that neither could cross. She wanted to tell him. About the pregnancy. About Banjo. About everything. But how do you confess that the woman he once called his pride had become someone else entirely? That night, they slept back to back. A house full of words unspoken. And a woman suffocating on the weight of her choices. Guess who's been asking about you? One of the junior HR officers whispered to Ifeoma in the staff lounge. Ifeoma blinked. Who? Mrs. Adekona from legal. She says she wants to review some old procurement and staffing files. She's working closely with the audit team. Ifeoma's pulse spiked. Adekona was sharp, cold, and known for making examples out of people. If she dug deep enough, she'd find the trails, ghost employees, fake allowances, manipulated salary bands. Thanks, she said, trying to stay calm. I'll prepare the documents for her. That afternoon, she met Banjo in the parking lot. We've got a new problem, she whispered through clenched teeth. Legal is poking around. And they're asking about files I signed under your instruction. Banjo didn't flinch. Then maybe you shouldn't have left a trail. I didn't. You did. He leaned in, his voice venomous. You're the signature. You're the approval. If this goes south, I'll walk away clean. And you'll be the story on Sahara Reporters. She gasped, stepping back. You'd let me go down alone. Banjo smiled. Welcome to the executive suite, Ifeoma. Where power protects itself. As he drove off, the world blurred around her. This wasn't a partnership. This was a trap. And she was running out of time. More, congratulations, but we'll need a paternity test, the doctor said gently, glancing at her chart. Ifeoma's fingers clenched around her handbag. Why? What do you mean? Your blood type is O negative. From your history, your husband is AB. That raises some red flags. Her throat went dry. She hadn't even asked Chuka's blood type before. She had barely paid attention to biology since secondary school. Now, her sins were being measured in blood, cold, scientific, and unarguable. Is there a problem with the baby? She asked. No, the doctor said. But if you're Rh negative and the father isn't, we need to manage the pregnancy carefully. We can do a paternity test as early as next week, non-invasive. She left the hospital feeling stripped bare. The walls of the maternity ward felt too white, too clean, like they were mocking her. Outside, Lagos traffic roared, indifferent to her quiet panic. A text came through as she entered her Uber. Amoka, have you told Chuka yet? You can't keep dodging forever. She didn't reply. She couldn't. The blood had spoken. And now, the truth was no longer something she could bury with excuses. More, the IT department flagged some activity from your work email, AO, the HR intern said nervously. Ifeoma looked up sharply. What activity? He glanced around before leaning in. Someone tried to recover deleted files from your email archive. Some old staffing documents. It was caught by the compliance software during the audit review. Her breath hitched. She had deleted those documents weeks ago, the ones Banjo had pushed her to sign. Inflated contracts. Fictitious allowances. They should have been gone for good. Now, someone was digging through the ashes. Do they know who tried to access it? She asked. He hesitated. I think it was someone from legal. Mrs. Adekona's assistant. Ifeoma nodded slowly. Thanks, Eo. Don't tell anyone we spoke. As the intern left, she paced the office, heart pounding. The audit was no longer a routine check, it was a hunt. Someone wanted to pin everything on her. And worst of all, they might succeed. She sat down and opened her email, preparing to send an anonymous tip to shift the blame. But her hands froze over the keyboard. Because once you start lying, there's no clean way back. You've been crying in your sleep, Chuka said one morning, standing at the bedroom door with folded arms. Ifeoma stared into the mirror, rubbing foundation over the dark circles under her eyes. It's nothing. I'm just tired. Tired doesn't make someone flinch when her phone rings, he said. Tired doesn't explain why you're hiding receipts, avoiding eye contact, and locking your work bag. She turned to face him. Why are you interrogating me? Because my wife is disappearing before my eyes. The words hit her like a slap. She could feel her heart cracking under the weight of all she couldn't say. She looked at him, really looked, his beard now scruffy, eyes heavy with worry, his shoulders still broad but sagging with hopelessness. She loved him. That was the most painful part. And yet, she was slowly destroying him. I'm sorry, she whispered, voice barely audible. For what? He asked. Everything, she wanted to say. But instead, she walked past him and left for work. In the mirror, her reflection followed, tired, worn, and unrecognizable.